Hello everyone and welcome to Jumperman Tech, where we specialize in HVAC. We do everything DIY, and today we're going to be installing these floors. Thank you to everyone tuning into Jumperman Tech. So we're going to begin by prepping. We're going to want to sweep the floors, make sure everything's clean. These are ceramic tiles. We got a bunch of breaks here, and the customer just wants a new design. So let's begin by prepping the room and get this started. I'm going to start over here. Let's take off this transition. It's just nailed in. So we got this out, got everything vacuumed. Typically you have to prep the floor with like an underlayment, but as you can see, these come with this black layer, which is the underlayment. And typically they want you to like leave a little bit of a space because this is like a floating floor. So let's see how we're gonna get this started and do the best job possible as straight as we can. All right, so they do want a little bit of a gap, about a 1/4 inch, because these might buckle at some point. But you know, what you really want to do is actually keep these floors in the room for about 48 hours so they adapt to the temperature and humidity in the room. So we can start about at that corner and see what we can do and see how we can get this straight. As far as these little gaps, since I'm not taking off these moldings, I'm gonna be using this kind of molding to cover those portions. As far as this, we're gonna have this going around it. Corners, we use this miter saw and we cut at 45-degree angles. Here we have two 45s and you'll put them together. You make like a nice corner, so a little something just like that. And I wanna start with this so I know what kind of gap I can use, and so we can begin this, because the hardest part is starting. Once we get it started, it should be easier. What makes it tough is going around all these little corners. So let's do the best that we can. So let's get this started. This looks great. So we're gonna go with a staggered design. You don't want to lay these just straight ahead. Doesn't look good. So we're gonna do something a little bit like this. We're gonna cut a piece here, cut that, so everything, you know, gets that staggered look, and it's gonna look way better. As far as putting these together, they're super simple. We have this like little lip here, and basically we just tuck it in underneath here at a bit of an angle, push on it, close it, and you wanna kind of smack this in, and you'll see they hold together. It's super simple. Let's begin by making our first cut. Let's start with a small cut to get this design started. That's a smooth cut. All right, so we got these little grooves, right? So we literally just line this up as straight as we can. Press down, that's done. So I'm gonna start a design with something like this. Another one here, and so forth. Let's finish this first row, and we're gonna have to continue that way. So this is our last cut. Cut side goes on the wall. So let's get this in. Have a little something like that. I'm gonna wanna make sure, even this out, you see how this covers those gaps. Something like that. I'm gonna have this to the point where This covers everything. Oh, there's a little screw here. So let's balance that out. All right, so we got a nice decent gap on each end. Took out that screw. Put this together. All the seams are covered. And we should be good to continue from here. Now, let's start the next row. All right, put a full one on this one. Let's see how that looks. Something like that. Maybe I might put this one, give this thing a cut, so we'll make a nice design. Just a heads up, you know, I'm an HVAC guy, and this is not my specialty, but we're gonna make the best of this. Just to keep things a little simple, I'm just gonna do a little something like this. And personally, I think that looks good. Let's snap these in. Let's line this up straight. Alright, so this part is tricky, so you're gonna start on this end, slide it in a little, and then kind of just like do a little something like that. Boom, we're in there. Make sure everything's flat. Make sure our gaps are okay. All right, here's our first 2 rows. So there's definitely dust flying around the room from making all these cuts. So before I lay down each piece, make sure that I vacuum underneath and the underlayment is clean. So basically, I'm just reversing these patterns. Something like that. Another tip that you could do is once you have everything like measured out, put these 2 together. Like just make sure that it's straight. A little more. Once those are in, then you could just do this one in one piece. I found that to be quite easier. Alright, so this part is getting a little bit tricky. I could just go like this. Maybe just put a piece of molding here. But then, I don't know, yeah, the door should open. Yeah. Instead of notching this out, I think that would be the easiest thing to do. Do a little something like this, extend this piece. Everything opens perfectly fine. And whatever will be left here, maybe you could just put like caulk to match the white. So this is where we are so far. Looks pretty good. Design looks pretty awesome. As far as this, I'm going to show you how I fix it up with molding. And what I would recommend is these little wood pieces. Maybe just painted white to match this molding. Or just leave it, I think it looks okay. But that's pretty much it. We're just going to continue along. This area is going to be tricky. All these little corners, the doors, stuff like that is tricky. Alright, so I'm going to use a big piece here. Alright, this is the correct side. We're gonna have to notch this out so we can slide it in. So I'm gonna start with well, I'm gonna have to slide it past this. You can see a little cut here. So I'm gonna make a little marking here, kind of do this by eye. and then measure the depth. As far as this is what we got. Got a good 2.5 inches. We can go more. So we're gonna mark this, let's say 2 3/4. So right here, that's that marking. Something like this, make it straight. And then we gotta go in like that and cut this piece out. A little something like that. Looks pretty good, honestly. And we could always slide this in a little more to get a decent look. And hey, it actually came out pretty good. Awesome. Molding should cover all that. Here, just gonna continue along. So we got this up to here. Mark this, chop it off. You always want these edges like nicely lined up, so you might want to give it a little smack. Make sure it really goes in there nicely. Just a tap so you don't break this thing. Flat, beautiful. Can't keep a long piece here, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this a little shorter. So I'm actually gonna probably notch out a piece like this, slide that over, and then notch a piece of this and connect them together. All right, so I notched it out a bit more, and this is what I came up with. Let's see if we can get this to snap. Like that, right? And then this piece I'll notch out here, so then they can snap in here. And that would be honestly amazing. I'm happy with this, and my idea should work. I'm gonna snap this in. All right, let's make sure it's just straight. And then I'm gonna do this as like one piece. I'm just doing what works for me. All right, so as far as the next set, I'm gonna start here where things get tricky, and then from there it's gonna be super easy. So, okay, I gotta notch this out this distance. So, like this way, I gotta cut this distance pretty well for this to be straight. 1.1 inch, then alongside the border. And I do freehand this. Alright, so from here we'll be moving along. These 3 cuts were wild. Came out great. Alright, so should be smooth sailing up to here until we reach these corners, and then we have to start notching things out again. It's gonna be a little difficult, but from here should be smooth sailing, just straight cuts every time we get to the edge of the wall, and just continue the pattern. I'm gonna go with a full piece here and whatever lines up there, and should be good. Actually continued the whole pattern. It looks really good. All right, so we made it to this point. This area is very tricky, but we definitely lucked out here because it looks like this is gonna fit in here just enough perfectly once we slide this in, so we can put our molding We're gonna continue to go. Just a little bit left to do. So this edge, we got about 1 3/8 inches. This edge, we got about 1 7/8 inches. So we're gonna go with the smaller number. So let's see what we get to. Got the 1 3/8 inches. So we're gonna start right here. So we gotta cut this and this, and leave this part thin. Tricky stuff. So I notched this out. I'm gonna cut that. Might need to trim it at some point, but let's see what we got. This is the idea. Right there, you see? Something like that. Yes, this actually looks great. And then we can cover this with moldings. I like getting these in. Alright, you could also give this a little smack here. Let's make that in. And then get this lip up. This is pretty much what I've been doing the entire time. How's the corners? We can go a little bit towards this wall. Right there. Got this at a little angle. Smack it in. See the little gap? Now it's in there. Check the seams. Keep it moving. Alright, so it's the moment of truth. Whoa. Pristine. This looks honestly really good. There's a lot of tough corners to get by, but we made it. So from here, we're just gonna be installing the molding so we can cover the gaps like this between here. You want to leave that gap so nothing bulges up. So let's see what we got here. Got the miter saw so we can cut out our 45-degree angles. Got the air compressor with our brad nail gun, and this is the coolest cordless vacuum. These little strips we're going to be using. Let's get to it. Alright, so here's a little mini air compressor, super cool. Here's a brad nailer. Let's just make our way here. So, hope one of these little moldings was because I didn't want to take this off. You know, it would have been a huge job. I wanted to be in and out of here one day. So all these little gaps are now gonna be covered like this. So, start at this edge. Shoot it up. And we're just gonna make our way along. Awesome. So I got moldings going across the entire room, and we're just gonna do a quick paint job around so everything looks nice. All right, everyone, this is it. Just need to put a little border around here, but man, this came out great. The little trim actually kind of makes these moldings look a little fancy. This also needs a different trim here. Might just even just leave it like that, honestly. No biggie. We're here to put in floors, and the mission is accomplished. Not too shabby for an air conditioning guy. So if anybody found this video interesting or helpful, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you all next time.